Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is David Bowders. I'm the founder and CEO of SPARXiQ. I'm joined today by Sonepar's Scott Schuenke. He's the VP of Strategic Development and Implementation at Sonepar. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
So we just wanted to catch up with you a little bit today, see what's on your mind and what are some of the priorities at Sonepar. Obviously, one of the world's largest electrical distributors. Maybe just give us a little bit of background on Sonepar and what you've been working on there.
Yeah, sure. So Sonepar, I work with the US and North America. We finished 2022. We hit 14 billion in revenue, which is a record for us. We have 550 locations throughout North America, multiple brands, 20 plus brands throughout North America.
And your role at Sonepar, I know you've been involved at really envisioning what does Sonepar need to modernize? How do you innovate to improve the business? Maybe tell us a little bit about your role there.
Yeah, sure thing, David. So it's my title speaks to what I do. So there's a lot of work around the strategic development with the organization. How do we set priorities? And we'll certainly talk about some of those priorities today and how we arrive at them and what we're working on. But we're a very planful organization. As we talk about transformation, these are big investments, they're long-term, so you have to be very selective on what those priorities are going to be. And it all needs to be wrapped around a strategic plan because it has to be part of the financial model. It has to be part of the operating model. We have to be able to integrate and pay for these things. So we do a really solid job of building a strategic. It's not something that we do and we put on the shelf for the next year. It's a living document. So this is one of the big things I'm responsible for.
Yeah, I know from talking to various OpCo presidents and regions around Sonepar that there's very clear linkage across the business to make sure that folks are aligned on the right priorities. Maybe you could just give us kind of in a nutshell, what are some of the high level initiatives that really matter to Sonepar in 2023?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. So as we talk about these priorities, we call them strategic priorities. To make the list, it has to be a significant impact to the business. It has to be, a big needle mover because there's only so much time, bandwidth, resources, et cetera. So one of the things that we've invested heavily in is supply chain transformation. This is something we're leveraging the experience we've had globally. Even Lumen up in Quebec has had the goods to person machines and warehouse automation for a number of years. And we've successfully launched our new CDC at Cooper in Cranberry, New Jersey, at North Coast up in Auburn, a suburb of Seattle. We just opened Crawford's 500,000 plus square foot facility in Katy, Texas, just outside of Houston. So supply chain transformation, when you bring automation into it, it changes the game. It drives productivity, it drives efficiency. It's a better work experience for our people. It really does help us deliver what the customer expects us to deliver in a way that, if I wouldn't have seen it for myself, I wouldn't have believed it. So I think that's one of the beauties of working with other companies within our organization that are highly successful at what they do. They teach us the right way to go. So we bring that back. And so we have a robust pipeline of supply chain transformation for years to come. So we're mapped out well through 2026 and beyond. So we're going to continue to invest in supply chain. The same is true with digital. Digital is now a meaningful, critical component of our overall business. It's billions of dollars that are flowing through digital channel in North America. And we've really invested heavily in developing the tools, the processes, not only for our customers with project management software we call Digital Job Center, our web, mobile, all these other connectivity tools, but there's also vendor connectivity tools, there are all the employee resource connections that we have. Digital transformation is a big deal, and it's only going to get more dramatic as we go forward, as our customers evolve. More and more as they turn over. I mean, the next gen, they do their research online, they buy online, they're comfortable online, and we need to have a best in class offering to make sure we meet those expectations.
Yeah.
These are big investments in these two areas, David. We're not talking about millions or hundreds of millions. We're talking about billions of dollars of commitment over the next 5 years, and you have to pay for that. So one of the areas we pay for that, of course, is the productivity and efficiencies we get with automation. But you're helping us on the pricing and profitability side. So we've been engaged with some of our businesses with you for a long time. And as you know, we've expanded that significantly in 23 because I think we've had 2 record years. I've been in the industry 39 years. I've never seen anything like the last 2. To think that that's going to be the new normal going forward, I think is wishful thinking. It's just not going to happen. So as supply chain catches up, as there may be some kind of economic slowdown, as supply catches up with demand and it maybe exceeds it, there's going to be more pricing pressure on all of us. And I think using the approach that you bring to us with the analytics and helping us form a better strategy, the thing that really is also going to help us is the education piece. Our people, I think we as distributors undervalue what we do in the marketplace and the value that we bring to our customers. And it is a constant struggle to teach our people just how important they are and how important our organization is to the customers that we serve and the value that we deliver. They get pricing pushback during the day, but I'm thoroughly convinced most of the pricing pressure that we have on us is in our own minds, our own people's minds. They have some guardrails up as to what they could charge, whether it be percentage, but it's all in their head. And most of it is not fact-based, in my opinion. So I think there's a great opportunity because you might have the best pricing analysis that we can leverage, but if our people are overriding price, then it's going to negate the effectiveness of that. So it's doing the data-driven pricing, the education piece, the change management. When you put those together, I think that's a real win for us.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we've seen working with distributors over the years is that salespeople are great at creating value, but they are inconsistent at capturing the value that they bring to the customer. And, we talk to a lot of contractors, and what we know is that getting the material at the right place at the right time with the right product and with a reliable supplier is really what they care about most. Price is typically secondary. Yes, there are big buyouts and jobs that have negotiated pricing where it gets down to brass tacks. But a significant chunk of the business is really around, you can't get work done if you don't have the right material at the right place at the right time. And the labor force for the contractor is one of their, if not their leading cost of doing business. Obviously, a lot of equipment involved as well. So if you don't have reliable channel partners, supply chain, then ultimately you have people standing around on jobs waiting for material. You have, work being redone. You have people that largest cost, whether it's equipment or people, it's just not productive. And I think what we're seeing as we participate in a lot of contractor organizations is ultimately contractors just want reliable, efficient supply chain. And what we see when we look at the data is salespeople putting 10% on things, 15% on zeros and fives, we say, and over and over.
Yes.
They basically define their value to the customer in terms of what number ends in 0 or 5 that they feel comfortable with that. They always joke that they should put on a jersey that represents their favorite number. It's like it was their favorite play.
They all have a pet number in their mind that there's their go-to, and that just throws out all the analytics, all the logic out the window. I think it's a big miss for us.
Now, Sonepar is obviously a very acquisitive company, and I believe a force for consolidation in a very productive way, having a clear vision as to what needs to change in the industry and helping achieve the scale that those changes can reliably be invested in and implemented. As you think about acquisitions, how have these initiatives helped you to be more effective as an acquirer?
It's a great question. We're an organization that's been built on not only organic growth, but through acquisitions and mergers and acquisitions, as you mentioned. And, I think one of the things that we look for when we're looking for acquisition candidates, and we've announced several here, 5 in the last few months, actually. So, it's been aggressive, but very disciplined. So we look for really good companies with strong leadership, good reputation, good people, and then invest in it. And I think a good example would be North Coast. North Coast joined our organization in 2019. They have a brand new automated warehouse in Auburn, in Washington. And why is that? Because they were a good company with good leaders, and we're investing in them. And they would tell you that if they didn't belong to Sonepar, it would have been incredibly difficult for them to have an automated warehouse in Auburn, Washington. Another area that we look at, we get back from them. Let's talk about digital real quick. So they tried to launch a digital platform a couple of times with success that they were not happy with. So we were able to bring them in, and instantly, once they were integrated, they were right on our whole digital suite of tools. So they went from not having what they wanted in terms of a digital offering to the same platform, the same tools that every other opco is using. And instantly, they were a player, and you could see their digital business really take off. What we get from a company like North Coast is their pricing leader was really good, and now he's the pricing leader for all the Sonepar businesses on the West Coast. Their strategic selling process was best in class, and we used it as our model to build our CRM capabilities around. And their strategic selling process is now being taken, to the other opcos. So I think that's what we look for. We look for a company we can invest in, because every one of our businesses we've acquired over the years, what they look like today, where they've grown to, is wildly different from when we started. And that's our mission with every acquisition we make. We're buying to invest, we're buying to grow. We're not just wanting to add another brand into the portfolio and just continue on. We want to build that business. And I think North Coast has seen significant growth in the last 3 years as well. And I think that's what we look for, good people that we can build around, David.
Yeah, sometimes I think of it in financial terms that you would call it arbitrage opportunities. So what are the things that, if we acquire a company, what are the capabilities that we bring, or the structural advantages that we bring that will instantly, or not instantly, this is where implementation comes in, but predictably create net economic value for both parties. And then I think what you're pointing out is really arbitrage flows in both directions. Sometimes we're actually finding companies out there where they've got some distinctive assets or capabilities, and if we bring them in and leverage them back through the portfolio, then we can grow even further through these cross synergies.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So as you think about that, the challenges, one of the things that makes Sonepar very interesting is the operating company framework for how to run the business, not rolling everything into Sonepar and letting opcos remain independent, but also trying to build really platform-wide capabilities. How do you thread the needle between autonomy and let's say best practice sharing across the enterprise?
Very carefully. But in serious, they may be independent, but I can tell you that they're aligned up to the priorities that we have set, those strategic priorities. Those priorities don't happen if our opcos aren't aligned with that. So there's that alignment of priorities. Everybody understands what we are investing in going forward, and they're all part of that. And they all have their hand up for support on supply chain, on digital. They're big adopters of it. They're asking for more resources. There's good leadership, not only at the opco level, with a willingness to look at, that's one of the benefits of working for the organization. We have some incredibly high performers that have done things in markets that, honestly, if I wouldn't have been exposed to, I wouldn't have thought of that, or wouldn't think it was possible. So we have these pockets of innovation that we're able to leverage across our footprint. And I think the names might be different, but the experiences are the same, or very, very similar. So we want to keep that local entrepreneurial ability to react in local markets, and then leverage the big picture thing, like the North Coast example, that they wouldn't have been able to set up an automated warehouse. They wouldn't have been able to create those digital tools on their own to the extent that we have today. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You remain that flexible, customer-facing organization, and then you're leveraging the scale of logistics, digital, and bringing in, back office, HR, all the things that we are able to help them and support them with, that makes them a better company locally. They can spend more time and energy taking care of the local customers.
I've really seen that firsthand, working with the OpCos on pricing and profitability. You think, well, what difference does it make whether they carry the OpCo brand or name versus just being a region or something like that? And I think what I've discovered working with Sonepar is that it makes a difference. There is a different level of accountability, responsibility for innovation, for leadership, that you really retain that when you maintain that identity. And if you had just folded them in and given them numbers next to their locations, I don't think you'd have quite the same level of what I'd call good ego in this whole thing around, really being proud of who they are and having that distinctive identity. Can you comment a little bit about that?
There is a strong pride in our businesses at that local, the culture, the local culture, the local leadership. To us, that is really critically important to us, because again, we're aligning our priorities, leadership is engaged, they've got that local autonomy. So, as far as I'm concerned, independence, using the word independent, performance brings independence. The higher performer you are, the more freedom you have to do and experiment locally. And so I think it's at balancing, threading the needle, helping them see the big picture. But I think there's leadership at our OpCos that are looking and saying, okay, I can learn from others. And that's the beauty of having multiple different ways of doing things. We can find the best and then permeate that through the entire organization, like the disciplined selling process of North Coast.
So it seems like Sonepar is becoming a little bit more, let's say, assertive, though, in having common platform capabilities across the OpCos, like still actively supporting autonomy and the local brands, but also saying, okay, we have to have autonomy to be successful, but we also need to have common capabilities. And even if everybody has, a slightly different marketplace that they're in, or different, goals and priorities in terms of local market dynamics, how do we start to bring those capabilities across in a way that respects and preserves autonomy?
Well, I think you're seeing it, David, with the work you're doing with the OpCos on pricing. I can't believe there's wild differences. They understand the need and they're all in. There might be some local differences, but I think from customer activity, marketing, sales, they really own that locally. They're not equipped to understand about automation in a warehouse and to develop their own digital tools. Why waste your time on that? Focus on what you're good at, because we have the same issue as our customers do. There's not enough people. There's not enough tradespeople. We need to be finding ways to make our customers' lives easier and to help them have a wider reach with the labor they have, because it's hard for them to get more and it's holding them back. Same is true for us. Let's not put a bunch of people locally on figuring out the supply chain. Let's put those resources, customer-facing resources, around project management, around inside, outside sales. Our counters, still a critical part of our business. When 30 years ago, when the .com started happening, we thought, well, that's going to be the death of the branches, and yet quite the opposite. Proximity is incredibly important, and our will call business continues to be a solid year in and year out, that same percentage, and a meaningful percentage. So as much as we like to think things change, there's great strength in proximity, and we need to be local. They need to be thinking about that proximity piece, because for us, it's critically important. When we build these CDCs, we want to come around them with density locations, smaller locations, closer to the customer. That's our mantra.
And how is the branch density changing for Sonepar? Are you looking to increase density, being more local, or are you looking to how are you handling the hub and spoke question?
Yeah, well, I can tell you when you have an automated warehouse that your productivity is so much higher. Now what you do is you have these smaller locations around, around a major city. You know, we think a city like Houston, there's 26 Home Depots, in the city of Houston, and they walk down the shelves. I mean, the names are very familiar to us, and those small, medium contractors, that they've carved out a nice business, so for us to win that business back, we have to be closer to those customers. So we see smaller locations in major metro areas being supported routinely and regularly from a CDC. Now you've got pick, pack, and ship productivity on one side and more locations out in the field, smaller footprint, but you're close to those customers and building that customer intimacy.
It's interesting because the buyers themselves are changing quite a bit. And I think that's what's behind a lot of this. So if we think about a lot of the contractors that are out there nationally, there's a real race for scale among commercial contractors in particular. And they're trying to consolidate, and they're going through the same arbitrage strategies that Sonepar is. So how does Sonepar's positioning help you to serve better the commercial contractors who are going through that upscaling themselves?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because our customers' expectations of distribution are changing and evolving rapidly. And the first 30 years I was in this business, the changes were very slow and small, and it's happening quickly. And certainly COVID, changed a lot of things on face-to-face interactions. Our contractors that we do business with, industrials, all of our customers, they are looking for a strategic partner. They need to find ways to make their labor more efficient. They need to cut cost out of their supply chain. They need to leverage the services and solutions that distribution brings to help them be more productive. They need to leverage our digital tools for connectivity. So we see a great opportunity to approach our customers differently, more specialists, more layered coverage, be more consultative, project management. Many contractors will tell you that that's their biggest pain point. We have to be professional project managers to help them weave their way through these complex jobs, that if product isn't there when they need it, it is a significant cost. You touched on it earlier. Their largest cost is their labor. And if that labor isn't efficient, it greatly impacts their profitability. And there's lots of published statistics of the amount of electricians' time that's unproductive or wasted. Our mission has to be, how do we drive that number down along with with any customer in any area? I don't care if it's utility, industrial, or contractor. We have to find a way to help them be more productive with their labor and to take their supply chain costs out, which is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've been seeing with contractors in particular is the bigger and more complex the contractors become, and the more complex their jobs are, the more they depend on their supply chain partners to help them navigate that complexity. And I think Sonepar also has a significant initiative to increase services. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, packaging services with product, I think, is the future for sure. If you're only delivering product, you're more vulnerable. When you start combining those services, starting with project management and finding what services are best fit that particular project, because going to a customer and giving them a shopping list of your services is not the answer. It's understanding what their pain points are for that project, and then what do we have that can take that friction out and help them be more productive. And with our national accounts team that helps us to coordinate across our entire footprint as these large national contractors move around, they have an expectation that we're able to do certain things around on-site job cages, wire reel, you name it. There's an expectation that we can deliver that no matter where they go in the US. So we worked hard having that capability. It might not be an exact replica, but the functionality is the same. These are spaces we need to be in to be that trusted supplier.
Yeah, I think that the material management, the whole life cycle of material management has really become a critical topic for contractors, that if they continue to view their channel partners transactionally, they're wasting a lot of time and money on, product that's not in the right place at the right time, the wrong product. The statistics in the industry around wasted product, stuff that gets misstored on job sites, gets stolen, gets destroyed by weather. I mean, when people don't have things at the right place at the right time, it dwarfs any impact that you can get from buying it cheaply. And I think that's maybe one of the ways that the pricing and profitability initiative really dovetails with services.
There's no doubt, because now you can have that meaningful conversation about the value you bring. We want to share in that value that, we don't want it all. We want to share it. Obviously, we want it to be a good value, but we want to be the best value to a customer, not the lowest price.
Well, it's an exciting journey. Are there any initiatives on the horizon that are starting to twinkle to the top?
When you start talking about just the supply chain projects we have, David, the bandwidth is pretty full. But there's certainly, as I mentioned, this whole customer expectation that's been changing. Yeah, I mean, we put together, call center team. We've tried all kinds of different ways to approach and support customers the way they want to be supported today. And I can tell you, it just brings another piece we haven't talked about. We have a big utility business that broadband is becoming a big thing, and the government's spending billions on the grid. It's a great time to be in the electrical business. Electrification is happening. E-mobility, solar. I mean, these are the sustainability efforts that our customers have to achieve for their customers. These are areas that are really bubbling to the top right now. And we're in the early stages of this, but we're going to see a real transformation around e-mobility. And the downstream effect of that is the grid's going to have to be up by 60% by 2030 and maybe tripled by 2050. Then the number of electricians are going to be needed. I've seen statistics where, 30-40% increase in the number of electricians, and they're having a hard time finding them today. So I think the opportunity for distribution is going to be greater and greater as we go forward to package solutions, services with products, to help our customers meet these goals, because they're going to have a very difficult time finding that many electricians to feed the pipeline. So broadband, utility, huge growth area for us. I think that's the blessing of having a diversified portfolio. We can approach this from multiple layers, more end to end.
Yeah, there's, I think I read that by 2030, we need to replace about 150,000 electricians just to maintain the current load, let alone all the investments in infrastructure and data centers and all the other stuff that we're talking about. I think there's another 150,000 electricians to hit any of those goals just in the next, it's now only 7 years away.
And the same is true with our sales force. I mean, the number of folks that are retirement age that we'll have to replace just in the US next 4 or 5 years. I mean, we're talking 500 people. I mean, that'll be a big challenge for us, an opportunity to, again, continue to change as we go forward.
Well, I think the electrical industry is certainly an exciting industry today. It's got real Main Street impact, right? People's daily lives are affected by how we handle these challenges. So I want to thank you, Scott, for joining us on the Ignite series, and very happy to hear about the stories at Sonepar, and I'm sure you'll continue to have great success.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the opportunity, and Happy New Year to everybody. Appreciate your time.
Take care.
Thanks.